Hey everyone, it's Alex. I'm just a regular guy from California. And like a lot of people here, I've been a massive Disneyland fan since I was a kid. I'd go every single year just to soak up that pure magic. But last year, everything changed. I had this brilliant idea, or so I thought. I was going to stay in the park after it closed. Not to cause trouble or vandalize anything, no. I just wanted to film a TikTok video. I wanted to see the happiest place on earth completely empty. My plan was simple. The park closes at midnight, security does a final sweep, and I just hide. I picked the bathroom right by the Tomorrowland exit. It's always quiet there, and I figured there were no cameras. The clock ticked past 11:55 p.m. I watched the last families trickle out, their tired kids slumped over their shoulders. One by one, the lights on the rides went dark. Then came the final announcement over the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, Disneyland is now closed. Thank you for visiting. The familiar, cheerful music faded into nothing. I held my breath, listening to my own heart pound in my ears. By 1:15 midnight, there was total silence. I slipped out of the bathroom. The park was completely transformed. Sleeping Beauty Castle was glowing under the moonlight, but without the crowds and the noise, it looked massive, almost alien. I made my way towards Main Street. It's usually so warm and inviting, but now the shop windows were dark, like empty eye sockets, staring out into the night. That's when it started. Music, faint at first, then clearer. It was that classic tune from It's a Small World, but it was all wrong. It was distorted, slowed down like a scratched old record playing in an empty room. I pulled out my phone and started recording. This is perfect content, I thought, a stupid grin on my face. And that's when I saw him. Down at the far end of the street, right by the theater, a figure was standing, tall, silhouetted against the dim lights. It was a Mickey Mouse costume. I figured it had to be a late-night security guard. I gave a little wave, but he didn't move. I started walking closer, my footsteps echoing on the empty street. The suit looked old, worn out. The paint on the face was cracked and peeling. As I got nearer, the head turned towards me, slowly, with a grinding sound like rusty hinges. The eyes in the mask weren't friendly. They were just black, empty voids. "Hey man, sorry, I'm leaving," I yelled out, my voice sounding way too loud. There was just silence. It was time to go. I decided to cut through the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. It's always dark and cool in there. The moment I stepped inside, the air hit me, that familiar smell of dampness and salt. But tonight it was thick, almost suffocating, like a tomb. The water in the channel was perfectly still. The animatronic pirates were frozen in their chaotic poses. I remembered the old urban legend, the one that says they used real human skeletons from UCLA's medical school for the original ride, because the fakes looked too unconvincing. I always laughed it off as total nonsense. But as I passed the scene with the two pirates playing chess, I swear, one of the skeleton's heads twitched. Just my imagination, I told myself. Then I heard a splash behind me. I turned around. One of the empty boats had just shifted on its tracks, all by itself. I didn't wait to see what happened next. I burst out of the ride and found myself right in front of the haunted mansion. The huge, white-pillared house was glowing with an eerie, ghostly light. The front doors were wide open, inviting me in. I hesitated, then stepped inside. The long hallway was lined with mirrors. They were supposed to show ghostly figures dancing with you, but tonight as I walked past, I saw something else flickering in my own reflection. Behind me, dark silhouettes in costumes, watching me. Then a whisper seemed to come from all around me, a cold voice saying, "Welcome to your eternal home." I remembered the story about a guest who supposedly died of a heart attack during the ride as previews, and how they had to soften it to make it less terrifying. I always thought it was just a myth, but the chill that ran down my spine felt very, very real. I ran again, straight for the Matterhorn. The iconic ice mountain loomed over me, the entrance a dark, gaping mouth. There's another grim story about this ride. Back in 1964, a guest fell out of a bobsled and died 3 days later. I wasn't about to go inside, but as I stood there, catching my breath, I heard a scraping sound from within the mountain. It sounded like the bobsleds, rolling along the tracks in the dark, all by themselves. My escape route took me past Tom Sawyer Island. A thick, unnatural fog was swirling over the water. I remembered the tragic tale of two brothers who hid on the island after closing, just like me. One of them tried to swim across the river to escape and drowned. No swimming for me tonight. I finally made it to Toontown. Mickey and Minnie's houses looked like something out of a cartoon, but completely lifeless. I remembered hearing there was a staff-only maintenance hatch in Mickey's basement. Desperate, I found it and climbed down into the darkness. It was completely silent, and then I heard them, footsteps, directly above me on the street. I peeked through a crack. What I saw made my blood run cold. The mascots were marching, Donald, Goofy, Peter Pan, all of them. But they weren't walking, right? Their movements were jerky, unnatural, like broken, wind-up toys. They gathered in the central plaza, forming a silent circle, and in the very center stood the same Mickey I saw on Main Street. He spoke, but it wasn't a voice. It was a raspy sound, like children's laughter played backward, a warped, distorted noise coming from deep inside the suit. I suddenly remembered that old creepypasta, Abandoned by Disney, the story about a shut-down Disney resort where the mascots come to life after dark. I always thought it was just internet garbage. Then one of the goofy mascots turned its head slowly and looked right at me. The mask slipped just a little. Underneath, I saw bone. Rotten, yellowed bone. I bolted. They didn't chase me. Not in the normal way. They just appeared closer every time I blinked. The distorted small world music swelled in the air, but now there were words, a choir of ghostly children singing. Abandoned by Disney, abandoned by God. I ran for the one place I thought might be a way out, Sleeping Beauty Castle. I raced up the stairs, deeper into the structure, and found myself in a network of janitor tunnels. Graffiti covered the walls. I saw one message scrawled in black marker. George was here. I knew that name. George was the ghost of a construction worker who died building the Pirates ride and supposedly haunts the park, breaking rides for fun. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number, I answered. A cold, synthesized voice spoke. You're not a guest. You're part of the show now. I reached the very top of the castle and found a small, hidden room. In the center, under a glass dome, was a frozen head. Walt Disney's head. The urban legend, the one that says he's cryogenically preserved somewhere under the park. It was real. And then its eyes opened. The head turned towards me. Stay, it whispered. You can be happy here forever. The door slammed shut behind me. The mascots surrounded the room, their eyes glowing with a faint red light. I screamed. I woke up in the parking lot. The sun was rising. I was groggy, confused. Was it all a nightmare? I reached into my pocket. My fingers closed around a plastic card. It was a Disneyland staff badge. My photo was on it. Underneath it read, Alex, midnight shift, do not leave. I flipped it over. On the back, printed in small red letters, was a final warning. If found outside park premises after midnight, return inside immediately. I looked up at the castle, now bright and cheerful in the morning sun. I walked back towards the gates. I'm part of the magic now, so come visit Disneyland. It's the happiest place on earth, but whatever you do, don't stay after closing. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to hear more. My name is Sarah, and I'm 28 years old. Or at least I was. For a while, I had what most people would call a dream job. I worked seasonally at Disneyland in Los Angeles. Right on Main Street, selling popcorn. It was magical, or so it seemed. Everyone who works there knows the truth. Beneath the happiest place on earth is a sprawling network of tunnels, the utilitors. They're there so cast members can move around without breaking the illusion, the number one rule. No one goes down without a pass. Ever. But one night, curiosity, Or maybe something darker got the better of me. It started with a whisper. A girl on my team, Emma, leaned in close after a long shift. "You know that hatch near Club 33? She asked, her voice low. "That's the way to the forgotten Disneyland. No guests, just shadows." I laughed it off, but the idea planted itself in my mind. A secret, forgotten part of the park? It sounded like a silly urban legend, but the more I thought about it, the more I needed to see for myself. So after my shift ended and the last of the fireworks faded, I grabbed a flashlight and went looking. Club 33 is the stuff of legends itself, an exclusive private club for the super rich and famous, tucked away in New Orleans Square. It's been officially closed for years, a relic of a bygone era after some scandal involving Walt Disney himself. But the main entrance, you see, it's a fake. The real way in, as I learned, is hidden. I made my way to the second-floor bathroom, my heart pounding against my ribs. Behind a nondescript panel in the wall, I found it. A hidden latch I pushed. The panel swung inward, revealing a set of steep, narrow stairs leading down into blackness. The moment I stepped through, a wave of cold, damp air hit me, thick with the smell of rust and decay. The tunnels were claustrophobic, the concrete walls scarred with old graffiti. Words and dates scrawled in faded paint. Discovery Island, 1994. Don't look in the mirrors. Emma's words echoed in my head. She'd told me these were remnants from River Country, Disney World's abandoned water park. A boy drowned there, she said, and his ghost now wanders the tunnels under all the parks, looking for company. I forced myself to keep moving, my flashlight beam cutting a nervous path through the darkness. I took a left fork in the tunnel, drawn by the faint sound of dripping water. The light caught something on the ground, a set of rusty tracks, like for a minecart, disappearing into the gloom. Ahead, a heavy metal door was stenciled with faded letters. Utilitors B. My hand trembled as I turned the handle. The door creaked open, and I stepped through into hell. It was Main Street, but a twisted, broken version of it. A perfect ruined copy. The cheerful storefronts were there, but their windows were smashed, the glass littering the ground like jagged teeth. Piles of plush Mickey Mouse dolls lay rotting in corners, their iconic smiles covered in dust and grime. And then I heard it. Music. It was grim, grinning ghosts from the haunted mansion, but it was horrifyingly slow, warped into a mournful funeral march that echoed off the derelict buildings. My blood ran cold. This was straight out of Abandoned by Disney, the creepypasta about a shuttered resort where the mascots come alive at night. I walked deeper into this nightmare version of the park. The rides were all there, frozen in time. I saw a carousel, its painted animals rusted and peeling, their glass eyes missing. On a strange impulse, I climbed onto one of the horses. The moment I sat down, it let out a loud, groaning creak and began to rock, all on its own. I looked up at the decorative mirror opposite me, and I screamed. It wasn't my reflection staring back. It was a girl dressed in a prim 1950s style dress. She smiled, revealing a row of blackened, broken teeth. I scrambled off the horse, my mind racing. I remembered another park legend, a guest who supposedly hanged herself in the haunted mansion as stretching room elevator back in the 60s. They say her ghost duplicates itself in mirrors, luring you in. I ran towards the castle, but it was wrong. The familiar, beautiful silhouette was warped, its spires twisted like grasping claws against the artificial twilight. Inside, where the grand hall should have been, there was only a vast, murky pool of stagnant water. Child-sized mannequins and faded swimsuits floated on the surface, their plastic limbs bobbing gently. One of them drifted closer, and as it turned, its face broke the surface. It was Emma's face, but her eyes were blank, hollow voids. "Sarah," a gurgling voice bubbled up from the water. "Play with us." I didn't wait for a second invitation. I bolted back into the tunnels, but they seemed to twist and change around me. The walls felt like they were breathing, closing in. New graffiti glowed on the walls in a sickly green light. "You River Country's next victim." A child's laughter echoed through the passages, bouncing off the concrete, seeming to come from everywhere at once. I burst through another door and found myself in a cavernous theater. On the stage, a show was in progress. A Mickey Mouse mascot, but all in black, conducted an orchestra of skeletons. The audience was filled with shadowy figures, their bodies frozen mid-applause. Then one of them stood up and turned toward me. It was a guy from my shift. He'd gone missing about a year ago. Everyone assumed he'd just quit and left town. But here he was, his face pale and empty. "We don't leave," he said, his voice a dead monotone. "Stay, be happy." Suddenly, the other mascots were closing in on me. Pinocchio with a sharpened knife for a nose. Ariel with gills full of writhing worms. They weren't attacking, just dancing. A grotesque, lurching dance, trying to lure me into their circle as the music looped endlessly. It has a small world, but you're trapped in it. I remembered another piece of the creepypasta, that under the masks aren't people. They're Disney's cryo-failures, rejects from Walt's supposed experiments in cryogenics. I ran again, but the tunnels were a labyrinth, shifting and changing. Every door I opened just looped me back to where I started. My flashlight began to flicker, and in the strobing light I saw quick flashes of what was really inside the mascot suits. Yellowed bones and rotting flesh. Finally, I found a different set of stairs leading up. I scrambled towards them, desperate for an escape. I climbed out, soaking wet and reeking of mold, and found myself in the middle of the Pirates of the Korean ride. The park was just beginning to stir with the morning light. The nightmare was over. I made my way back to Main Street, my body aching. And there she was, Emma at her popcorn cart, looking completely normal. "Sarah, you okay?" she asked, smiling. "You never left last night, did you?" My hand went to my pocket. My fingers closed around a cold piece of metal. I pulled it out. It was a heavy, ornate key, the kind you'd see for a hotel room. Engraved on it were the words, Club 33, Eternal Guest. The first thing I did was call my friend Alex, the one who told me the original story. I had to warn him. "Don't go down there," I whispered into the phone. But there was no answer. Now, when I go back to my shift, I can't look in the mirrors, because sometimes when I do, I see her. The girl in the 1950s dress, but now she has my face. The nights pull me back down there. I can hear them calling me, wanting me to play. Club 33 is always waiting. So if you're ever at the park and you see a hidden hatch, please run. Disneyland doesn't let its guests go. This is Sarah, or what's left of her. Come visit the park, but don't go looking for the tunnels, because eventually they'll find you. Thanks for listening.